For years, Kash Patel sold himself as the fearless outsider sent to clean up the FBI, the tough guy reformer, the man who claimed the Bureau had finally found real leadership. But then Senator Murray looked him dead in the eye during a live Senate hearing and started pulling apart the entire image piece by piece. Questions about reassigned agents, questions about polygraphs, questions about leadership, leaks, and whether the FBI was being turned into a political machine. And instead of shutting it down calmly, Patel exploded into defense mode, throwing out statistics, denying everything, and trying to overpower the room with sheer force. But here's the problem. The more he talked, the more the hearing stopped sounding like confidence and started sounding like damage control. Watch the moment this hearing went completely off the rails live in front of Congress.
Granted this man Lawrence Duran clemency last June. He was set free and let off the hook for the $87 million he owed in restitution, and Trump granted clemency to Duran's business partner last February, cutting well short her 35-year prison term. He literally undid the important justice work the FBI served and let fraudsters off the hook, and I find that deeply disturbing. With that, I want to say I want to take a moment to reiterate the important role of DOJ law enforcement in keeping all of us safe. Those agents and deputy marshals are absolutely critical to making sure public safety and solving crime. But I worry that instead of pursuing these child abusers or terrorists or drug traffickers or other criminals, you have our agents spending time carrying out Stephen Miller's mass deportation agenda and harassing families and children. I want to ask you, Director Patel, how many FBI agents have been reassigned to work on immigration enforcement?
No one at the FBI has been reassigned to work solely on immigration, ma'am.
Well, I would differ with you because according to the Cato Institute, more than 2,000 FBI agents were reassigned to work on immigration enforcement in 2025. By the way, it's not just the FBI. More than 2,000 agents from the DEA, more than 600 from the Marshal Service, and more than 1,000 ATF agents are spending their time on immigration enforcement. That has really pulled critical, highly trained assets off of work to keep our communities safe from drugs and guns and other threats, and I find that deeply disturbing. Now, Director Patel, I want to ask you about a number of extremely troubling stories recently about your leadership and temperament and what's happened to the FBI with you at the top. And in response to all the concerns about your leadership, instead of righting the ship, you've taken to polygraphing your employees to scare them and attempt to rat out leakers. There are reports that you're using FBI resources to investigate journalists for reporting what's going on, and that is absolutely not what this committee intended when we funded the Bureau. So can you commit to this committee today that no agent hours have been pulled from other work like counterterrorism or violent crime investigations to work on matters related to negative press about you or your personal lawsuit?
Senator, I greatly appreciate the question, and I can tell you unequivocally, this FBI is targeting and investigating no journalists. This FBI is targeting no journalists. The Obama and Biden administrations targeted dozens of journalists, sent out 1,200 interviews.
I didn't ask you about the Biden administration. I asked if you can commit to this committee that no agent hours have been pulled from other work.
We have not done so.
Okay, well, there are reports that are using FBI resource to investigate journalists. You are saying to this committee today that that is not true.
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay, well, let me just say, Director Patel, we need a serious budget. But we also need serious leadership. And I will say this, there is one clear priority in Trump's overall budget, and it isn't law and order, it is war. Because while Trump is proposing cuts to programs that really do keep people safe, he wants to increase war spending by $500 billion. And I don't need to tell anyone here we are not going to bomb our way to safer communities. So I intend to help rip that budget up and write bills that keep families safe. But beyond that budget, we need serious leadership at the FBI that the American people can trust. And I am deeply concerned about the reports that your leadership has not been serious. We need somebody at this agency.
What followed in this Senate hearing was a sharp escalation in tone, where policy discussion quickly turned into a direct confrontation over credibility, leadership, and trust inside one of the most powerful law enforcement agencies in the United States. Senator Murray opened with recognition of FBI fraud investigations, highlighting cases involving large-scale Medicare fraud that resulted in significant financial losses to taxpayers. While she acknowledged the agency's role in holding offenders accountable, the tone quickly shifted toward criticism of broader federal priorities and the direction of enforcement under current leadership. The hearing moved from praise of specific FBI operations into a wider political argument about resource allocation, immigration enforcement, and internal agency focus. Murray raised concerns that FBI personnel may be indirectly involved in immigration-related enforcement activities and questioned whether agents were being reassigned away from traditional investigative responsibilities. Director Patel firmly rejected the claim that any agents had been permanently reassigned solely for immigration enforcement, creating an immediate point of disagreement between both sides. The senator cited external reports suggesting large-scale involvement, while Patel insisted those interpretations were incorrect or misrepresented. The exchange became more intense when questions shifted toward allegations of internal FBI management practices, including claims about employee monitoring, polygraph testing, and responses to internal leaks. Murray suggested that such actions reflected deeper leadership concerns and raised questions about whether resources were being used appropriately. Patel denied targeting journalists and rejected allegations of misconduct, insisting that internal review processes exist but are not driven by political motives or personal agendas. As the hearing continued, the conflict evolved into a broader debate about leadership style versus operational performance. Murray argued that recent reports raised serious concerns about transparency, accountability, and public trust in the FBI. She emphasized that leadership should remain focused on core law enforcement duties rather than public perception or external narratives. Her criticism centered not only on specific allegations, but on the overall image and conduct of the agency under current leadership. In response, Director Patel shifted the focus toward performance metrics and enforcement outcomes. He cited reductions in homicide rates, increased arrests of violent offenders, successful disruption of criminal gangs, and higher recovery rates of child victims and trafficking suspects. His argument was that regardless of political criticism, the operational results demonstrate measurable success. Patel framed the accusations as politically motivated and inconsistent with the FBI's actual performance on the ground. However, the hearing did not settle these competing narratives. Instead, it highlighted a clear divide between two interpretations of the same institution, one focused on internal concerns and accountability, and the other focused on results and enforcement achievements. Each side maintained its position without conceding ground, and the exchange ended without consensus. What makes this hearing stand out is not just the policy disagreement, but the deeper question it raises about trust in federal institutions. Supporters of the FBI leadership point to statistics and enforcement outcomes as evidence of success, while critics argue that leadership behavior, communication, and internal management practices are equally important in determining public confidence. By the end, the core issue remained unresolved, whether the FBI is being judged fairly based on performance or whether leadership concerns are overshadowing its operational achievements. The hearing ultimately reflected a broader political divide, where facts, perception, and trust collided in real time, leaving both sides firmly convinced of their own narrative.